Welcome to another episode of Black Ice Reality Check. I'm your host, Black Ice, coming to you from the podcast studios of Sticky Paws in Las Vegas, Nevada. We have a special guest on this podcast today that I think a lot of you have seen on Reels throughout Instagram, YouTube. Every time I open my phone on Instagram, this individual pops up and I'm like, okay, who is this person? Now, I'm going to try to pronounce the name right. Daniele?
Very good.
Hage.
You got it. Yep.
Welcome to the stage. How are you?
I'm great.
And
Thank
you are a wife, mom, pastor, podcaster, speaker. Master of all, almost, it seems like, right?
Well, I don't know about master, but
you came out here you're from Orange County,
Mm-hmm.
you and your husband, right? The better half here, right? Okay. So I'm glad you're here. And we got introduced through Byron, right? Correct?
Yeah.
And I have seen you, it's funny because I think what happens with the algorithms of Instagram is they put a lot of the topics and certain people in the same kind of category or bucket. Although what I tell people is there's a lot of us that are kind of on the same page. We might not agree with each other 100%, but that's what creates content and that's what creates dialogue. But we're pretty much 85, 90, 95% on the same page, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's critical for people to understand, because I've seen a lot of people come and say, well, Fresh and Fit or Andrew Tate or Steve Harvey or this or that or Roll Tomasi. And it's like, look, I don't agree with all those people 100%, but I'm pretty much 90% in agreement. So you popped up and you seem to be coming up on all the searches and you're the it gal right now.
Am I? Okay.
So all eyes are on you now. Now it's your turn.
Ooh, the pressure.
The pressure. So I'm glad you're here. So tell us about what got you into podcasting.
Okay, so everything that I'm saying, I've been teaching it for over 20 years. Okay, I do seminars and classes and for women and for men. And my son one day, 7 months ago, because I've been in it for 7 months, he called and he said, Mom, we need to do a podcast. He said, you have great information and it's time. And I said, really? Okay. And he lives in Dallas. I'm in California. And I said, how are we going to do that? And he goes, we're going to build a studio and you'll come out here once a month and we will tape. And he goes, you're just going to say everything you've been teaching for the last 20 years.
So wait, you fly to Dallas once a month? Once a month. How many hours do you film?
We tape as many as we can.
I like how she says tape. I know she's from the generation, right? We say tape. I'm video recording you. It's like my son goes, there's no video on this recording on a flight. It's a digital, right?
Yeah.
So you go out once a month, and how many hours do you do? Like 5 hours or an hour?
I usually go Wednesday through Saturday. We work all day Thursday and Friday. We do all the shorts, as many podcasts as we can have time for, and we do it every month. And it's fun because I get to see my granddaughters.
That's
incredible.
It's
like I'm killing two birds with one stone.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you start?
7 months.
And I see on Instagram you have 144,000 people.
Isn't that crazy? I know.
That's amazing.
I know.
And I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, it's funny when Instagram came out, I'm like, another thing I have to get on, right?
Right.
To feel relevant.
Right.
Because every time I turn around, there's a new platform, there's a new technology. We're just talking about AI, and it's like, let my son deal with that. I don't want. And I have friends go, well, so what do you do in the editing? Dude, don't talk to me, talk to him. I don't want to be involved.
I say the same thing. I say, everybody asks me, how are you going to monetize? And what about this? And what about that? And I'm like, I know nothing. I go, talk to my son. He has a master plan. I don't even.
Well, it's funny you said that, monetize, because your husband brought this up. For me, it's about impacting people's life and teaching and changing for the better, whether they agree with my philosophies or not. Okay. So I'm not really looking at the revenue. The revenue is a byproduct of me doing what I'm doing, but I'm not doing it for the revenue. Right. If I was doing it for the revenue, I wouldn't be doing it. Right. It's cost me thousands and thousands of dollars in corporate America because I deal with human resources in the tech space, which is very feminist-minded, liberal, socialist, and I don't want to say man-haters because that's not fair, but a lot of the women in that space don't like this type of guy, right? So the money is not, it's like, I'm at a point where I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to say what I need to say, right?
Right.
So How do you feel do you feel or consider yourself, and I know you've heard this term, red pill. Do you feel like you're in that community, or do you feel like...
I actually had to call my son and say, what is the red pill thing? I don't even know what that means. And he goes, you remember the Matrix? I go, oh, blue pill, red pill. So is the red pill, correct me if I'm wrong, is it that's reality?
Well,
the blue pill is not
red pill, the term we use is like your red pill, like... Well, here's the negative context.
Okay.
We get called misogynists, right? We get called toxic masculinity. But when in reality, what I consider red pill is men talking about traditional relationships, men leading the family, okay? Not bending the knee to the woke society, leaving the matrix. We call this the matrix. Everybody lives in this bubble.
Yeah.
It's not reality, okay? You see the media telling you one thing. They want to keep everybody in this bubble. And you can either take it from a spiritual perspective or not. But when you leave the matrix and you go, here's the truth. The truth is this isn't how it's supposed to be. This is a virtual reality. This is the false narrative. Like, okay, men, you can't lead, okay? And men and women are equal. And we're going to emasculate you. And if you're masculine, you're toxic.
Right. Yeah.
That's what we're taught. That's what we're told now. And the joke I had is I posted, I said, and I don't drink. But when we were younger, I said we were drinking English 800, Old E, and Mad Dog 2020. Now they're drinking seltzers. The men have gotten soft. I'm not saying drinking makes you hard, but it's like a seltzer.
Yeah.
What is this? And I don't drink, but I'm like, and I don't know. But, it's like, oh, you want a seltzer? I'm like, bubbled water? No, seltzer has alcohol in it. I'm like, we didn't drink this. We'd steal the Mad Dog 2020 from our uncle and drink that. Get some,
Yeah.
So red pill is more on the masculine side. Like we're the guys that are going to go out and provide, protect. And then you're going to, as a woman, you're going to uplift and support your man, fill the void. You're going to take care of the house, take care of the children, you're going to cook and clean. And when you say that in modern day society, now that does align biblically, but when you say that, it's pushback.
Major.
But however, a lot of the red pill guys have multiple girlfriends or whatever. So not all of them are on the line. The point is, I want to know if people have considered you, have you been called a red pill gal?
I've seen some of that in the comments, and that's why I had to look it up. I've also been accused of spreading toxic masculinity by a woman, and I'd never even heard that term. I had to Google it. I'm like, what is toxic masculinity?
But do you know where that came from? And I'm going to give Michael Sartain, Michael, if you're watching this, I'm going to give him credit because he brought it up on a podcast. And I'm gonna paraphrase what he had said, and then I went and researched it. There was a prison that had was working with, I want to say mentally ill patients that were prisoners, and they were doing stuff to themselves in the prison. The psychologists termed it toxic masculinity because it was a mental term. Okay, they were hitting themselves with a hammer, whatever they were doing, and clinical psychologists got a hold of it, and they determined that men that are talking about being leaders or strong or alpha males or whatnot, or they use this term toxic masculinity. And I say masculinity can't be toxic, but there's toxic people.
Right.
See, if I say toxic femininity or a toxic feminist, a feminist, okay, I don't believe in their narrative, okay? But is it the person that's toxic or is it the terminology, right? So being masculine isn't toxic.
Right. No.
So
we need masculine men.
So you've been called almost everything I have except misogynist.
I've been called that too.
Yeah.
That's
and misogynist means by definition,
like woman hater, right?
Men. Well, the general term is men that have prejudice or hatred towards women.
Right.
And I said, how is that a fact when I've been with the same girl for 4.5 years? How do I hate women? Well, you're a toxic masculine. And what it is, and here's what happens from a feminist. And I'm gonna I want you to do more talking than me here. I feel like I'm doing too much, but it's the red flags are insult, shame, and guilt, and the need to be right. And I get that from women, and I say, okay, here we go. She's gonna insult me. Now she's gonna guilt trip me. She's gonna try to shame me, and she's gonna try to prove a point. Here's the data. Numbers don't lie, if you will. Okay. Even though I think math is idiotic, but numbers don't lie. Here's the data. Well, who did those numbers? How do we know they're true? How do we know the people filled out the Census Bureau correctly? Facts don't matter. See, it's their feelings over facts. So for me, it's like, look, I'm the messenger. I'm Paul Revere, or I'm Paul. Not really. Old enough to be in the Last Supper. I was one of those dudes. But the point is that I'm the messenger, and I'm telling you, I'm giving you the data so you can self-educate yourself. Don't shoot the messenger. The old terminology that our grandparents used. Don't shoot the messenger. Right. Here you go. Now I'm the bad guy. So for you, how much hate are you getting?
Well, the men love me. The women, not so much.
But you have women that support you.
I do have women that support me, and any woman that's ever gone through one of my seminars walks out a completely different woman in the way that she regards men. So when they're only hearing snippets in, less than 1 minute reels, I can't give all the information.
But your son's doing his job.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all about views, right? To a point.
Yeah.
And when one goes viral, I'm like, oh my gosh, 2-point-something million. I'm sure you've had obviously some million.
Yeah, 12.2 million is my biggest one.
See how she threw that back at me? Just
I just wanted.
It's okay. Like I had 12. I had 12. Okay, I had 12. I think my biggest is 4. I had 12.
It was shocking. It shocked all of us. We were blown away with the first one that went viral.
3 times mine.
Was on Facebook and did nothing on Instagram, and the second one was on Instagram, did nothing on Facebook. So it just depends on.
Are you? I forgot to check, so forgive me. Is your YouTube channel growing pretty fast?
It's growing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you noticed that certain platforms you'll have one will do good, the other one will tank?
Yeah.
Are you on TikTok?
No.
Got to get on there.
Because
that's what's going to drive your traffic to all the other platforms. TikTok's algorithm is amazing, but I'm not on there. You do generate revenue, but I will tell you that my YouTube grew. My first TikTok they took down, by the way. But my YouTube, when it took off, the beginning was because everybody went to TikTok, and then I had my YouTube link, and they go right to YouTube. So that's a good jumping platform.
Well, I was on TikTok, but my son said there's a bunch of little 14 and 15-year-old boys on there, and he said, I don't like the comments. He said, it's disgusting. It's disrespectful. He goes, you don't need to be on it. We're going to do fine on the other platforms.
That's
so
fine.
He took me off.
Yeah, I don't read my comments that
and of
much.
Course, I do. My son told me not to, but I'm like,
no
I can't help it.
No disrespect, no disrespect. But I find women will always they read the comments.
Well,
and I'm like, you're like my girlfriend asking too many questions. Well, what time did they call you? 3:45. Well, I thought it was 3:30. I don't know, 3:30. Yeah. It's like.
Do you know why she does that? You want me to tell you why?
Why? Tell me why she does that. I hope she's watching this.
Okay.
Why does she ask so many questions?
Because number one, women connect verbally. Okay. So when she's asking you questions, she's not trying to interrogate you. It doesn't mean she doesn't trust you. She's interested in the details. Details.
Don't tell her that. Tell her she's interrogating.
Woman are very, very important. And if you don't give her the details, the way she feels in her body is he doesn't want to connect with me. He doesn't want me to be a part of his life. He won't give me the details. For her, red flags, alarms are going off when you won't give details.
But here's what happens with guys. We immediately go into panic mode. Because we feel like we're getting pressed. Yeah. And we feel like we're on the witness stand. Mm-hmm. And what happens and I'm just telling you, my brain does not operate that way. I forgot what I ate for breakfast this morning. Mm-hmm. I have a 486 Pentium processor up here. You remember the 486? It came out right after the Commodore 64. It's an old processor. I'm not running an Intel. So I kind of dump all my cache and data. Right? Mm-hmm. And women are like elephants. They'll remember stuff from 4 years ago when you went to the Starbucks and you tipped the barista too much and she thinks you like her, right? I'm like, what? The girl with the green hair? I don't even remember. What green hair, right? Oh, you remember the green hair. It's like, well, stop. And so when I get for me, I feel like I'm being interrogated.
Yeah, but just understand from her point, she's just trying to connect. It's a connect point. Okay. Details help her connect.
I'm going to put her phone number in her phone for 911. Call you.
Well, this is what I tell women. So when you're talking to a man, you need to give them bullet points. You need to be very specific.
Right.
In as few words as possible, give bullet points, and if they want more information, they'll ask because they don't need the details the way we do. So if you want to get the most listening out of a man, give him bullet points. And you can just say, what do you think about that? And a lot of times women don't even want to know what you think. They just want to process. They just want to talk and process because they feel like they're connecting with you.
I feel like I need to get a parrot or something.
Well, I always tell women, save the details.
You didn't know what you're getting into with me.
Save the details for your girlfriends, your mom, your hairstylist, your manicurist, because men, they just don't need all that information. They just don't.
So can I ask how long you two have been married?
43 years.
43 years. So you need to write a book. Do you have a book out?
He wrote one a long time
Okay,
ago.
I'm going to have to get that book and study that.
It's not a recent one. That was when he was a youth pastor.
Okay. I'm joking, but I'm not, because that's amazing that you guys have been married that long.
Yeah.
Why do you think that modern day marriages are failing at an exponential rate?
Well, I think my personal opinion is the feminist movement that started way back in the 60s. It was great to give women equal pay for equal work. That's awesome. But it has wreaked havoc on romantic relationships because it has told women, in order to be powerful, put your kids in daycare. It will diminish you to just stay at home and raise kids. You won't have enough power. You need to go out. You need to work like a man. You need to become a man. The feminist movement asks the question, what do we need men for? Like we can do everything ourselves. Awesome. I can do a lot of things myself, but guess what? I don't want to. I like having a man. I like having a companion. I like being treated like a woman. But women these days, they have become so masculine, and no man wants to be married to another man. If he's a straight man anyway, right?
Right.
He doesn't, and you can't have two masculine energy people in a relationship. You've got to have a masculine energy and a feminine energy for a relationship to work. It's like you got to have a president and a vice president. You got a king and a queen. You can't have two kings over a nation. You can't have two presidents over a nation. You need to have one that leads and one that follows. And so women, because of the feminist movement, have learned and been inundated, and I believe they drank the Kool-Aid. They drank the Kool-Aid of the feminist movement, and now they can't find a man that wants to marry him.
So I agree with you. I believe that a lot of that too, not just the feminist movement, a lot of that too has to do with their mothers raising them to be independent women and not good wives.
Yeah.
Because of their failed relationship or failed marriage, right? Because you failed, you're not a bad person, okay? We've all failed at something, but you learn, right? And I see a lot of these ladies now that their moms have ingrained in them.
Yeah.
You don't need a man because they're bitter.
Yeah, because they grew up in the feminist movement, those moms.
Yeah.
They were inundated with it.
Well, I know with my mother, my grandmother, I would see how my grandmother would my grandmother was married 3 times. They all passed away. But I would see how my grandmother would interact with my uncle. And then I see my mom, how she married my stepdad when I was very little. My dad died when I was like 2, but they weren't married. But then they got divorced when I was 14 and a half. But I see how my mom would interact, and it was very masculine. Mm-hmm. But I see my grandmother's, how she talked with my uncle. It was very masculine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so then I see now, understanding and reading and studying, I saw the trait come down to my mother. And now my mom's alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
My uncle and her live in the same house, right? Her half brother, because it was the grandmother's house. But my mom's alone. No man there for her. And she's bitter, sour, and I'm not talking bad about her, but I've seen the results of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I try to talk to ladies and men about, having healthy relationships, marriages. But what I get to push back on is I don't need a man. And I said, do you realize what's going to happen when you're older?
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. You're in Orange County. Mm-hmm. $100K, you're broke.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. You're in food, literally, because in Seattle, $100K, your poverty level is $96,000. So I said, how are you going to retire? What are you going to do? OnlyFans only works so long, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're doing all this stuff to make money. And I said, it's not a flex to say you're an independent woman. You're supposed to pay your bills and be responsible. Mm-hmm. That's not a flex. And I don't know how in their mind, and I don't know if you know what that means. That's not, flex is posturing like, ooh, look at me, I'm independent. I said, you never see a man say you're an independent man. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to, that's our responsibility. But if you're alone and single, you're supposed to pay your bills.
Right.
And so now I see this thing where it's almost like a throwback in the face of a man, like, I'm an independent woman. I don't need a man. Mm-hmm. It's like, what are you going to do when you get older? And they don't think past 2 years. Yeah. They don't think 5 years, 10 years out, right?
Yeah.
And so I see this trend pushing. So I want to ask you this. Now, I believe in marriages, but I have a challenge with modern day marriage laws.
Okay.
Do you think that the modern day marriage needs to be restructured through the courts? Because if marriage is about being married under the covenant of God, right? That's what marriage is. It doesn't say anywhere in there about a contract with the government. So my issue, and this is what men are having problems with, women are being rewarded for divorce in modern day America. And men are getting afraid to put themselves out there. And this is my belief, and whether you agree or not, I'm not here to argue with you, but I believe if you get married through a pastor or a church or preacher, minister, and you get married on the covenant of God, you're married. Now, people are like, well, you need to sign a marriage license. Why? Why do you need a marriage license?
You know, it's about the covenant and the commitment that you're making, that you're doing it under the law of the land, that you're signing a paper, you are committing yourself to this person in a signed agreement.
Okay, but did Adam and Eve back in the days, they didn't do that with court, though.
Yeah, I don't know when it started. I don't know.
But you see where I'm going? So now what happens is, as a man, you lose this leverage.
Okay, but to me, because I know I've heard men say, hey, you know, it's not a good deal for men because when they get divorced, they lose half of everything. And my response to that is that's a really good incentive to make it work.
Right. So going, and I'm good. This is a good point. So going by the numbers, there's a 51% divorce rate.
Okay, it depends on what numbers you're looking at.
That's the Census Bureau numbers.
Okay, so Christian marriages have the highest rate of success when it comes to marriage.
Okay.
Now, there's some statistics that are skewed because a lot of men that we'll call nominal men, meaning in name only, men that profess to have some kind of evangelical background, they'll fill out surveys that say like, what's your faith, Protestant, whatever, and they'll check the box. But they're not necessarily men that go to church, if at all.
Well,
but they'll say, oh, you have that Christian background. So the numbers get skewed because the ones who actually are Christians that go to church at least 3 times a month, those marriages, those Christian families are the ones that have the highest rate of success in marriage.
So you talk about active Christians.
Yes.
But how do you know that if all the Christians are filling it out and saying, like, I'm a Christian, right? If I miss church. But if you're saying an active, involved Christian, how do you know that number if all of them are filling it out?
Well, when they went back to the data and they looked at the ones who said that they are, and I don't know how they did the research.
Sure.
But I just found this out recently. The ones that said that they were Christians that actually were involved in church, like going to church on a regular basis. The nominal men were saying they were, but they never went to church.
Okay.
So that, I guess, is
so they were saying they're Christian by default. Like I was baptized, but I'm not active. Okay.
Right.
So because I know that there's a 75% of the divorces the women file, and 90% of the cases of that 75%, they're college educated women.
Okay.
I know that stat, but I didn't know the stat you're talking about.
Yeah.
But you see what happens with men. So now we're like, okay, we see the outcome, and you're right. Going in with that mindset, hey, it's going to fail, is a bad thing.
Right.
I agree with you. I'm just telling you I talk about this is where we're seeing this is reality.
Right.
Yeah. So when guys come to me and I'm like, look, this is my mindset. It's like what outside of the biblical realm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about. You want to call us heathens or whatever, the people. If somebody says, well, what's a wife? What can a wife give you that a girlfriend can't give you? Right. Mm-hmm. Outside of the Bible, you see, because not everybody's a believer. I'm a believer.
Okay.
I'm on your page, but in reality, when you go out there and they're like, okay, well, I don't go to church or whatever. And I said, okay, what can a girlfriend or a wife give you that a girlfriend can't give you? And the problem that we're seeing right now is men are less and less men are wanting to get married because of the outcomes they're seeing, right? Mm-hmm. They're seeing their and it takes 2 people, but they're seeing their all their hard work and effort that they build up, and they're 35, 40, they get married, and then 7 years later it's gone. And yeah, she helps contribute the 7 years, but everything's taken away. Mm-hmm. They lose their house, she stays in the house, the kids stay with the wife. We're seeing a very high failure rate with children that are raised by single mothers, right? Whether it's being incarcerated, drugs, murders, suicides. And the guys are getting a little apartment. They lose their retirement, their 401k. They see that happening to their uncles and dads, and they're like, wait a minute. Why do I need to do this? What's up? What's my upside? I have a zero net gain from a business perspective. Now, from a biblical perspective, I agree with you. That's not right. So this is what I'm seeing and what we're dealing with out here in society is more and more people are like, nah, I'm good. I'm good because we're seeing the masculine. So how are you getting a lot of that?
Here's some other research. You probably have heard of psychologist Dr. John Gottman. And he's the reason he's so huge and people really look at his research is because with a 93.6 success rate, he can tell a couple, within 15 minutes of meeting a married couple, he can tell if they're going to get divorced and how long it'll take to get divorced.
What's it? I've heard of this guy. I didn't know his name, but I've heard.
Yes,
I've heard the guy talk about
what
this.
else he has found. And he does a thing where you come into this it's like an Airbnb, but it's actually a lab where he hooks the man and the woman up, and they have conversations, and they register their heart rate and all the stuff to tell when they're getting heated, what they're feeling, and he's got all the research. Anyway, so he says, and this I have to admit, this surprised me because I put a lot of the onus on marriages working on women. I do. I think women are a huge part of the problem. But when I read his research, he said that the women are the ones that are trying to make the relationship work. They're the first ones to seek counseling. They're the first ones to read relationship books. They're the ones that are saying, come on, let's go get therapy. And
I believe that. I do believe that.
Yes,
I believe that.
And even when they are trying to respect the man and trying to, be a good wife, a lot of times the men don't respond. And in his research, he said, the numbers came out that the responsibility for the marriage failing or succeeding is on the men. It falls on the men. And if you think about it, that's right where God put the responsibility to, biblically, is on the men. The man is the head of the home, right? So
okay, I agree with that.
He's got to lead his home.
I agree with that, but women set the tone in the home.
Absolutely.
But
it depends on how the man responds to the woman, and even just as simple as her trying to get details from you. And when she feels like you won't connect with her, she starts to distance. It's a disconnect, like he won't talk to me or he won't listen to me. That's the biggest gripe of women is that he won't listen to me. Women need to talk, need to process. Men don't want to hear it.
I agree, but I'll say that also it's how they approach it, right?
I agree.
Because I think a lot of the time it's timing, it's what they say, how they say it. And it's that old saying, well, I'm not interrogating you. Well, if I feel like you're interrogating you, maybe you need to ask the questions different.
Right.
So for me, it's a matter of, I think, and I don't want to speak for men, but for me, it's like, what's the motivation behind that question? Mm-hmm. I want to know why. Like, why are you asking me this?
Because she wants to connect with you.
But see, but you say that.
She wants to get inside of you. She wants to know how you're thinking and how you're feeling. I know because women are more feeling oriented. She wants to know how you're feeling, but men are just logical. They're just going to say what they think. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? Fine. But for a woman, it's like, really?
See, that's great.
But what else? And the man is just like, I'm fine.
I'm great.
And he may not be fine at all, but he doesn't want to be vulnerable. A lot of men won't make themselves vulnerable to say, I'm scared right now. I'm nervous. I'm scared about my job or our finances or whatever because they don't want to worry the wife. So they'll just say, everything's good. Everything's fine, and maybe never talk about their feelings. And for a woman, because for women, their feelings are everything to them. If you don't tell me how you feel, I can't know you. I can't connect with you. And what I teach women is when a man is, when it comes to communicating, men's relationship to communication is to conceal. Women's relationship to communication is to reveal.
But you know why men conceal? Because naturally, biologically, through the history of mating and dating, women always go for the strongest man, right? And inherently, men know, even though it's not weak for a man to have feelings, women have this sense of can he be a protector? Because the number one thing women look for in relationships, and they won't say this, it's resource. They want stability. They want a provider, right? And then they say, oh, it's not about money. It's like, okay, if he was a Burger King, you wouldn't date him. Guys don't care generally. Now we live in a 2 to 3 income society, right? So now we're having this is the breakdown. So the challenge we're having now is and I'm not saying it's not doable, because if you look at the income bracket, 13% of men make $112,000 a year. in America, 13%.
Okay.
Okay. Now we know in the coastal cities, the A markets, you're broke. So for a guy to provide and protect and a woman to be a homemaker, that doesn't leave up a lot of options based on the numbers. So what's happening now is here's the other challenge, the breakdown. He's working, she's working.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's this equality issue.
Right.
Why should I do this if I'm working too? And then I ask him, how much do you want to contribute to the household? So right now, before the women get married, every guy's got to make 6 figures. Every guy's got to be 6 feet tall. Every guy's got to have 6-pack abs. Joking, but not. And it's not just 6 figures. We're 300,000. And the problem is that only a certain percent of men, maybe 2-3% of men make 200K or more that are single. And so this delusion of every girl wants the same dude and they're all competing for the top 10% of men. And then what happens is they get in a marriage and they're like, I don't want to work. It's like, well, he doesn't make enough money because if you live in LA, you live in San Francisco, Orange County, Seattle, New York, Miami, this is a C market here, kind of a B city, you can't survive. So what do you say to couples when both of them are financially contributing to the household? And as far as how do they share responsibilities and duties in the house? And I say the man still leads, but what I'm seeing is a big pushback now. Well, I contribute, so he shouldn't lead.
Okay, so if you want to stay married, if you want to stay in a relationship, women have got to, when they're at work, they're in their masculine energy. Okay. And that's great. And they need to be because they're producing and they're working and that's masculine. But when they come home, they need to turn back into their feminine woman because that's what the man craves. That's what he needs from her. He can respect her competency and how much money she makes and all that stuff, but he can't cherish the masculine. He falls in love with the feminine. He wants to make love to a feminine woman. He doesn't want to make love to a masculine woman. Okay, that's not sexy. It's not attractive. At work, all day long, that's awesome. But when she comes home, she needs to turn back into a feminine. And what I teach women is how to nurture your feminine energy. It might come home and take a bath. It might put on music, have a glass of wine, get comfortable. It may go take a dance class. Whatever makes you feel like a girl. It's not so much even about, putting on high heels and a dress. It's feminine energy is like taking that back seat, letting him lead, empowering him to be the boss, empowering him to meet your needs, and not competing with him. A man doesn't want to compete with his wife.
We know that.
Yeah. So women that are trying to compete with their man, there's got to be a disconnect there because that's not what a man needs. He respects your competency and what you bring to the table, but it's not what he needs. Men crave a woman's feminine energy. It brings life to a man. It renews a man. He needs that in his life to feel loved, to feel respected, to feel admired. So for women, and I have a daughter who has a lot of masculine energy. She makes really good money, has a really good job, and she says, and she's just recently married, and she said, when I get home, it's hard. She goes, I have to admit, it's hard turning back into a girl. She goes, I need some time to turn back into a girl.
If you don't mind me asking, does her husband make good money as well?
He makes good money. I think actually right now she makes a little bit more.
See, this is an area that I've noticed with hypergamy, which I know you know what that means.
I don't. What's that?
Hypergamy? Hypergamy is basically where women generally date at their socio and economic level and above. Okay, so inherently what they do is they look for a guy that does better than them financially, stronger, bigger, faster, smarter. It's called hypergamy, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is I've seen a lot of challenges with relationships when the woman starts creating more income, only because she doesn't know how to turn off that masculine energy.
Right.
But they don't know that, right? So and knowing that now, or them knowing this, when a woman is creating, and I'm seeing a lot of this, where this guy starts taking on, your biological role as a woman is one thing, and the man's is another. But when you try to go against your biological roles, it never works out. But what's happening now in society is a lot of women are doing very well, and that's great.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is if they're outperforming their husband or boyfriend financially, so with a substantial amount, they come home, he starts turning into they try to switch their biological roles. Will you cook me dinner, get everything ready, take care of the kids? I'm going to go out and slay the dragon. But it's counterintuitive to their nature. And so there's a higher failure rate. I don't know the numbers. This is anecdotal data, right? But I'm seeing this tremendously. And so when you go back to hypergamy, where it's like, okay, women will look at their level and above. Women generally date up, right? In turn, what happens? Men are dating down, right? So it's very rare that you'll see a guy that the woman generally, I'll give you an example. You'll see a lot of actors in Hollywood. Nicolas Cage, for example, he met his wife was a waitress at a cafe, right? You'll see these guys get married to these women that, I don't want to say nobodies, but they weren't popular. They weren't a figurehead. But you'll never see a lot of these actresses date down or marry down. They always go with somebody that's a figurehead or has status, right? Has equity, has resources.
What about Julia Roberts?
There's exceptions to the rule. There's exceptions, but the exception is not the rule,
yes,
right?
I agree. And
There's
you
always
can't live by the exception.
And so now what we're seeing is, okay, I don't believe, this is just me, I can't function with someone that's outperforming me. I don't feel right about it.
Okay, so
for me, and I've done really well. One of the things growing up, I'll give you a couple examples. And not because of this necessarily, but I never dated women with college degrees because I felt the masculine energy. I got a good intuitive radar for masculine. I ask a couple questions. I see their feedback. It's like, yep, there's a lot of work there. And so what happens when guys become high performers or high valued, and whatever your definition is, everybody has different definitions, and we start becoming very successful, we have options. Because 90% of the women are dating the top 10% of men, right? And then they call us F-boys. It's like, well, wait a minute. You control access to sex, not us. So if you're controlling access to sex, what does that make you?
women have so much power.
Women have a lot of power.
Really
We control access to dating and marriage. We're the ones that propose. We're the ones that ask the women out. Women control access to sex. And the goal, for some guys, that's their deal. Mine's a different end game. It's like, I want a relationship.
Right.
But like you said, you made a comment about relationships not going to marriage, right? My point is this, is that right now, as options, I have certain indicators when I met my girlfriend. Nope. I saw the energy. Nope. Most average guys don't have those options because they're not equipped with the arrows in the quiver to date. They accept where they're at. They know what they're going to get. Women, however, we're seeing are not. They all want the same thing.
But I do think, and maybe my daughter is the exception to the rule, but like she had a couple different guys that were vying for her attentions, right? And it was neck and neck with these two guys. And one guy made a ton of money. And she could have the lifestyle that she wanted, that she was brought up in. And the other guy didn't make as much, but he was taking a new job, and he will catch up with her. He's on his way to catch up. It's just that kind of job. He's a U.S. Marshal. And so she ended up choosing the guy that he was so secure in his masculinity. He didn't make as much money. She's a UCLA graduate. But he was so secure, and he's a bodybuilder also. He's a CrossFit guy, super strong, just won a competition, number 2 in the competition. Super strong, so secure in his masculinity. He handles her so well. Like she's got a lot of masculine energy, and he's a masculine man, but she says, the reason I married him is because I have never been treated better. He's like the strong, silent type that he'll just sit back and he'll just look at her. And she just, because she has never been loved the way this man has loved her.
That's good.
By a man. And she was like, that's because people have said, really? And she goes, I've never been treated. I say, marry for character. Money comes and goes.
Right.
You can have a guy who's making all this money. He could lose it tomorrow. The market
That's
could
true.
switch.
That's true.
And then what do you got? You're married for money. You got all the nice things, but you don't have a relationship.
But he does.
He has horrible character.
But he does make money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
But I mean, she could have gone.
So he's
with
probably
a guy
at 6 figures.
Yeah.
So that's my
getting
point.
there. Yes.
Oh yeah, he's getting there. So
And he will be there. Yeah.
and again, there's exceptions to the rules, but
Yes.
no, I hear you. And they're Christians. See, that's another factor, like you
Huge.
mentioned earlier, right?
Right. Because you connect.
But
at values.
but the point is if he had no job,
right. Oh,
or
yeah.
he was a school nothing a school teacher, but somebody that was like not making money, who was working in a nonprofit.
Right.
There probably wouldn't be an opportunity there.
Yeah, no, she dated another guy for 2 years. Nice guy, and he wasn't working. And we said to her, he's not working. And he said to her one time, well, what do I need money for? I go, does he ever want to buy a house? Does he ever? And we were like, what are you doing with
But see, this is the key
It didn't
point.
work.
Mom and dad are saying he's not, because he can't be a provider.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
a guy, if your son met this wonderful woman that was working in a nonprofit, made no money, you probably wouldn't say something like that.
Yeah, because the woman is not the protector provider. The man
There you go.
is the protector provider.
And that's why hypergamy kicks in most of the time. But
Yeah.
you're right. He probably will catch up. But also, you got a Christian couple, so they're grounded. They have a foundation.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So now, how many children do you have?
3.
Okay. And they're all out of the...
All 3 married. Yeah, she was the last one. And she's 34. She didn't get married till she was 34. So she was, because she was working, she was getting her education, and she never met a guy that she was ready to tie the knot with until.
So how do you feel? I'm glad you brought that up. How do you feel about women putting marriage off and focusing on their careers and college and their careers before marriage? How do you feel about that?
Well, I know when my parents divorced at 10. And my mom was a very traditional, like, stay-at-home mom from the Midwest. My dad moved her out to California. And then they had 4 kids pretty quick, and they were only married 12 years. And she actually divorced him for different reasons that I just found out as an adult. But anyway, but her neighbors were convincing her too, and then she got a divorce, and then she never saw the neighbors again. But anyway, and I learned from a young girl, you pick up the nonverbals. She always said, you got to get your education. You have to have something to fall back on. You have to have something to fall back on. I remember hearing that because she had nothing. They got divorced, and now she had to go get a job and drive an hour to LA and work the midnight shift. She had 4 kids at home, and my dad's gone. And so she had it really hard, but she was a great mom. But I remember thinking, I need to have a career. I need my college education because I don't want to end up like this. I need to be able to support myself. I don't want to be dependent on a man. I was headed toward the feminist thing. I wrote papers in college on equal rights of men, and I was all, woman power. And then at a very young age, at 18 years old, I found the Lord, got saved, and it changed my whole perspective. The Bible changed my whole perspective on marriage and life, everything. Met him very shortly after I accepted the Lord, and we had pretty short courtship. We actually dated for 18 months, and we were married because he was going to be a pastor, and he said, look, we need to get married and break up because we can't be fooling around. Because I'm going to be in the ministry.
He's worried about his image.
Yeah, he was. And I said, well, I'm not ready to get married. I mean, I was so young. And I'm
So how old were you when you got married?
19.
Wow.
He was 22. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was like, I have to finish my education. I'm not, no, I even moved away. But he was so
So did you finish? Did you get your degree?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not because we ended up getting married but I was going to finish college, get my degree. We were going to do all these things and I have kids for at least 5 years. We were so young. 4 months into marriage, I got pregnant. And we're like, this isn't part of the plan.
He didn't wait.
This was not part of the plan.
He didn't wait. He said, I'm handling this right now.
But he wasn't wanting to get me to get pregnant either. It just, we were irresponsible. Totally our fault. But, and so then I was still going to school pregnant, but then that maternal instinct was kicking in. All I wanted to do is stay home, bake bread and bake pies and have a baby. So I ended up quitting school and I ended up quitting my job. And I have always been a stay-at-home mom. Had other jobs in between.
Sure.
Like I, was an aerobic instructor. Back then it was aerobics. Group X is what they call it now for,
Richard
20
Simmons.
years. Yeah, but I never made a lot of money, But I did other things to contribute over the years. But we agreed, that I did not want childcare people that were being paid $8 an hour to raise my kids.
Well, and that was my point. I said, do you want a daycare to raise your kids?
No.
Or do you want to raise your kids? And their response is, well, my mom will do it. It's like, why don't you let your parents be grandparents instead of daycare?
Well, and I think, you can make it work. You might not be able to have everything. If you want to raise your children and not just, farm them out to people that don't have your values, you want to raise your own children. You learn to live within your means. And, for years, he was a youth pastor. And we between the two of us, we worked at one point in order to buy our house. We were both working 3 different jobs with 2 little kids, and we saved our money. We scrimped. We didn't have the big fancy cars. We didn't have a lot of stuff, but we knew what we were committed to. We knew we had this purpose together, and I was going to raise my own children. And yes, I had a mom and sister and help and friends, but we just decided that that's what was of value to us, and he agreed with it. So he has never been like, go get a job. I mean, he's like, if you want to, you can. And when my kids were in school at that age, he traveled a lot. For 10 years in our marriage, he traveled 49 weekends out of the year. So he was going a lot, and he was making great money. He was like speaking all over the country and the world. And I thought, now I'm bored. He's gone. Kids are in school. But I thought, he's gone. I don't want them to have to come home and be a latchkey kid.
Latchkey kid, yeah.
I want to take them to school and pick them up. And so I started my own personal training business out of my garage, trained my neighbors. I was always into fitness, health and fitness. But I did things where I could stay home. My hours were flexible so that I could be there for my kids. And we have 3 great adult children. 3 great kids. Not that we were perfect parents, but they all serve God. All 3 are married, now raising their own children. The one that just got married now is pregnant, and they're great parents. And we feel like we did our job. We did our job right. Didn't have a lot of stuff. And I always tell women, you can't have it all at the same time. You might be able to have it all in a lifetime, kids, a career, success, but you can't have it all at the same time. And so now, I'm traveling and doing my thing, and we're empty nested, and everybody's good. I just think you have to decide what you want your life to look like, what kind of life you want to create based on your values and your faith and your beliefs. Not that everybody has our same faith, but between the two of us, we decided this is the route we're going to go. We're going to do it the way of God. We're going to do it what the Bible says.
So,
it's worked.
So do you think what needs to change to improve society's relationships and marriages? What do you think needs to change?
I think people need to get the divorce word out of their head. Nobody goes into marriage thinking, well, in a couple of years I'll be divorced. When you go into marriage, you're getting married because you're in love with that person, and you feel like, I have so much to add to their life, they have so much to add to mine. Like we have stuff that we want to give to each other. You make a commitment, a covenant. Even if he doesn't keep his end of the deal, I keep my end of the deal, because that's what a covenant is. It's not a contract where you break your end, I break my end. And we were very determined. I came from a broken home. His mom died when he was 5, so he had a stepmom. And we determined that we were never going to get divorced. And we also said, I like being happy. I'm a fun, happy, good-natured person, so is he. I said, I will also not live in a miserable marriage. Like, I won't be able to do that. It's got to be good. And we decided, so if we're going to get married and stay married, it's going to be happy. And we're going to have fun. And we will do whatever it takes to make it work. And not that we haven't had our challenges. We have. But I'll tell you, probably 10, 15 years ago, there were went through some very, very hard times financially. And there were a few times where we thought we might throw in the towel. It took its toll on our relationship. And we considered divorce at one time. And
but was that over? But it sounds like finances?
We had some major financial
Do you think
losses.
that's the number one reason people get divorced is finances?
I think it's a culmination of things. I think, people argue over power and control. People argue over care and recognition and respect. I think they argue over sex, finances. I mean, the kids. I think it's a lot of different things. Our kids were always good. When we went through that time, he went through a type of depression because he had built his kingdom. I mean, we were doing good. We owned 3 homes. We had great homes. We had beautiful cars.
I know all about that.
Right?
It's this is the 3rd recession for me. Yeah. I'm like, dude.
Right. We had started a church. Heck? We had a huge lease payment, $18,000 a month on this church building. Ooh. And then 2008 hit. And we had all entrepreneurs in our church.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yep.
And we lost our building. And I think for him, he was in fear. I was in fear. And we kind of stopped talking. He kind of withdrew, shut down. And all of that took its toll on our relationship. And I say we got close. We thought about it, but we were like, if we can make it past this. And we sought counseling. And I remember, one therapist saying, don't make any decisions. Give it 12 months. Don't make any major life-altering decisions right now while you're while you're down. And we said, okay.
So I have a question on counseling. Okay. Do you recommend, and I don't know how to word this, so I'll just say it. Do you recommend marriage counselors? Obviously, it was a Christian marriage counselor for you, right?
We saw a couple.
Do you recommend a man counselor or a woman?
We had both, man and woman. I don't know.
Because you know where I'm going with this, right?
No.
The mindset of the therapist.
Okay, what?
Because I see a lot of the ladies that are marriage therapists and counselors that aren't married, that are see this term called "I'm a strong-headed woman," and I tell women it's easy to be a strong-headed woman. It's harder to be a woman of strength.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
It's very hard, but the reward outweighs the struggle, right? Because the reward is XYZ, a woman of strength. Anybody can be strong-headed,
right?
They can just push back, and so. What I've seen with a lot of the marriage counselors or the therapists that are women, they're very strong-headed, feminist, and their resolve and solution isn't necessarily to keep it together. It's like, well, you should leave. So I'm asking you, have you seen this out there? Because I'm seeing a lot. I'm hearing this. Like, what? They said what? No, I'm not. No, I understand. Okay. I understand there's physical abuse. Okay.
Absolutely.
And drugs. And there's some
addiction,
kind of
adultery, and abuse. Those three things. Yeah.
But if they're having challenges and none of that's going on, and the solution is, well, why don't you move back home with your parents and give it a 1 year or 2 year break? And I'm like, who's this therapist telling you this?
Yeah. I would never encourage that. Yeah. I think you got to find a good therapist for sure.
So what are the conditions from your perspective that, because in the Bible it says don't get divorced, okay, right? Mm-hmm. What are your conditions that are deal breakers that you should be divorced?
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of them: physical abuse, okay, adultery, and what else?
Addiction. Any kind of addiction.
So if you're addicted to football.
Well, okay, destructive addictions.
You're not talking to me when you're watching football. Stop. It's the fourth down, fourth quarter. There's 2 seconds left.
Right.
That's an addiction, right? So what you mean, you're talking about drugs, right? And alcoholism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
or pornography
Okay. So if
gambling.
Gambling. Okay. Well, 401k is gambling. Stock market is gambling.
But so my husband grew up in a home where his dad gambled away the paycheck, and he and his brother had to quit college and go get jobs so they could support.
I know.
So that unhealthy.
I know what you're talking about.
Can't afford to gamble, yet you're still gambling, and you're running your business or your family into the ground.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
So all those are factors. And anything else, they should stay.
Well, I think
I'm not trying to put you up like she said this, I'm just saying in general that those are the
individual couples have going into marriage, and this is something you have to discuss during the dating period. What are your non-negotiables? What are your deal breakers? Like for some women, they might not care that their husband watches porn here and there. Other women, deal breaker. Like, it just depends. I talked to a woman the other day, and she said, yeah, my husband has had a lot of affairs over our time of being married. And I was like, and you're still married? She said, yeah, I get it. I understand. Now, for another one, absolutely not. Deal breaker. It just depends.
And I'm not condoning it, but do you know why men cheat?
I think I know. Why do you think they do? Or you tell me.
No, I'm asking you. It's not a pass or fail question. It's variety.
Oh yeah, that's
but I'm not condoning it. Hear me out. But a lot of women will say, well, because this is what I'm seeing, and again, I'm not always right. Hear me out. Women, if they cheat, generally there's an emotional connection. Generally, okay, that's the rule. There's exceptions. There's the one night stands, and we call them 304s. That's another terminology for HOE. Right? I won't say it, but we call them 304s. It's spell that backward in letters, right? Women, they just do it because they just want to do it. But generally, women will have an emotional connection before they sleep with a man. Men don't care.
Right.
Generally.
They don't need the emotional.
But I found growing up, this is what I found. So guys can be with a woman and doesn't mean, and you may disagree. Let's say he's in a relationship with a woman, he cheats on her. Women say, oh, you don't love me. You did. No, it's not that he doesn't love her. He just did it because it's just sex. It's meaningless to him. Now, I'm not saying it's right. Now, hear me out. So he has sex with this girl, doesn't know her name, whatever. Okay. But what I found, and I'm telling men this, and we talked about this earlier, are you dating for purpose or just dating to be in a relationship? Okay. So if you're dating for purpose, I've told men this, even though women generally need an emotional connection before they sleep with a guy, if as a man, I know you preach, I know the Bible says no sex before marriage. I get that. If you don't have an emotional connection with a woman as a man before you sleep with her, the relationship is doomed. Now, obviously, going into the Bible, it says get married first.
Right.
I agree. The reality is people still have sex before they get married.
Even Christians. Yeah.
Right. But I've seen this and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I really like this girl. She's really hot. Because guys always go for looks first. That's the first thing we do.
They're visual.
You know, is she able to have kids? It started with the whole men would go for youth for fertility purposes, right? And then it's like, okay, looks first, and then everything else follows, whatever your conditions are. So what I would find is I'd be with these attractive women, and I'd sleep with them very early, and I was like, why don't I like her anymore?
Do you know why that is?
Well, I didn't hear her talk before. No, I'm just kidding. God, she's annoying. She really is bad because we're blinded. We're thinking of one thing. God, look at that. Look at that. And she's, blah, 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 blah. It's like the Peanuts, right? The Peanuts cartoon. Blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you hear them. No, it's a joke. It's a joke. Then I said, well, what's going on? So then I met my girlfriend and she lived in Tucson. I lived in Seattle and we had this long distance relationship. And I talked to a friend and said, look, I've never dated somebody long distance, really. He's like, you got to work backwards forward. I go, what do you mean? Ask him the hard questions first before because you can't just fly back and forth all the time. And because when the girl's local or the guy, you're seeing each other all the time. It's the third date, fourth date. Maybe I should ask her, do you want to have kids one day? You want this and that. So I asked her all these questions up front. But before I saw her, we'd spent time talking video 45 days. Then she came out. We didn't have sex. She stayed the week. We didn't have sex.
That's great.
And she went back. The second time, yeah, we did. But I got to know her and built this relationship with her. And I realized that, and it took me all these years, is like, wow, guys are kind of similar in women in a lot of ways. Women just figured it out like, hey, I need to get to know the guy first and be emotionally connected. Guys were like, a caveman. Conk, don't talk. Fix food, make me a ham sandwich. So what I'm seeing now is these guys obviously, get married before they have sex. But I tell these guys, look, if you're dating this girl, you really, really like her, obviously she should go the right route, which is this way. But if you're not going to do that, man, take some time because if you have sex too soon and you don't know her, inherently as a man, you don't know why, but you're going to not want to be in a relationship. You're going to want to go seek another woman to conquer. And I've seen this time and time again. And a lot of the guys you're right. We were friends. We didn't, we had this relationship and then we eventually came together and it works. Because I see guys go out there on a mission and we say we're not on that mission, but then we get around the woman. Guys can't say no. We're weak.
Yeah.
We're weak.
Okay, so let me tell you why a man will have sex with a woman and then decide, men don't bond through sex. Women bond through sex.
Facts.
Okay, unless he's a feminine energy man or a left-handed man, because they have more feminine energy. It doesn't mean has nothing to do with sexuality.
Left-handed? Not
Literally.
politically, but left-hand.
Literally left-handed man.
Politically too.
No, they have more feminine energy.
Come on, that was funny. No, it's true. Like this guy's got to be a liberal. Look at him. He just smells like it. Look at him.
It's just it's biology. It's genetics. It's the way their brains are made
Now
up.
they're going to cancel the video. Just kidding. Go ahead.
But so a masculine man, he doesn't bond through sex. A man cannot fall in love with a woman that gives it up too easily.
Well, there you go. That's what I was saying.
Men like a challenge. They fall in love with a woman's virtue. Because a woman that just gives it up on the first date, or you just getting to know them and they just give it up real easily, a man will say, well, then she's going to give it up, or she's already given up a lot because that was so easy. It's like he wants a woman that he has to pay the price to get, pay the price to go to bed with. And if a woman is smart, she will not give it up easily. It's like this, and I heard somebody explain it this way. I thought this was perfect. You know, men like to do man things like go hunting. They don't hunt like rabbits and squirrels. They want to go hunt a huge elk, right? They want to hang the big thing with the big horns on the wall. Not like a little bunny rabbit. They want the biggest and the best, the thing that was the hardest to catch. The bear, the big animal, right? Not the little ones that are easy to catch. So they're out to hunt a woman. They want someone that they're going to have to work for. They like the challenge. It makes them feel like a man. Once they conquer that, they actually win her over. And so for women, women need to know their value. A low value woman will have sex with anybody. She has a very low cover charge for a man to get in.
I'm stealing that. You have a low cover charge. I'm stealing that.
Yeah,
you better patent that.
Every woman has to figure out what her cover charge is. And I tell women, you need to figure out what you need before, during, and after sex. And because if you don't stick to your cover charge, for some woman, it's a nice dinner. That's the cover charge. You can have me if I'll trade sex for a dinner. For other women, it's like, no, I need a ring on my finger. But that's my cover charge. Okay. So if a man doesn't want to pay the cover charge, move on.
So men always pay for it. We always pay for it. Always. Because we have to. That's my point.
If a woman will hold out.
Well, no, I'm saying girlfriends are leased, women, wives are financed. You have to have money. That's my point. And so, but you're right. That's a good point that you brought up. What's the cover charge? That's a good point. I like that.
And a high value woman, I call her the queen. She has a very high cover charge. You know why?
But she can't be a queen unless she's married to a king.
Nope. A woman can be a queen at 18 years old, 17. A young woman.
I disagree with that, but that's okay. She can be a princess.
But when I talk about a queen, I'm talking about a woman who is confident in herself. She has healthy self-esteem. She knows her value. She knows who she is in the eyes of God. She has high value because she knows what she's worth. And so a woman that will just, she's got the sex appeal, and she'll go out and have sex with whoever, have sex like a man has sex. That woman has no self-esteem. She does not know her value, so she's just willing to give it up.
I believe that.
But a woman who knows her value and knows her worth, she will wait. And a man, if he wants her bad enough, he'll wait too.
Are you familiar with? You're familiar with pair bonding.
What? Tell me exactly what that
pair
means.
bonding is.
I've been hearing that term a lot.
It's this. I don't want to call it a theory, but the clinical psychologists and doctors have said that after a woman has had sex with more than 6 men, 25% chance of her pair bonding with a male because her oxytocin levels will be so low. In other words, we call it body count. What's a woman's body count, right?
Right.
And what I've noticed is that as men, I had a gal say, well, how do you know? We just know. We can tell. Guys can kind of tell if a woman's been with a lot of men. I can't give you the answer why, but just for what you've done, your husband and you, and you've talked to thousands of people, been on stage with 20, 30,000 people, and you've interviewed and you've counseled and coached and mentored. You just know when somebody's not 100%, or if there's an ulterior motive. It's that, I don't want to call it sixth sense. It's your wisdom. It's your experience. And as guys become older, we kind of can tell. I don't want to say necessarily how they're dressed, they act, but there's all these variables that come into play. And I don't have the cheat code on it, on what it is. But when I meet a gal, I can kind of tell if she's been around the block too much. And so what happens is when a woman's been with a lot of men, it's harder for her to bond. I came up with this terminology. Her pair bonding has been broken by an alpha male. She's been alpha widowed. And once a woman's been alpha widowed, she's ruined for the opportunity for me to pair bond with her and have a successful relationship. So my girl has been with only a few men. She was married for 8 years. She hadn't been with a lot of guys. I knew this when I met her. I put her in this alpha situation where she's pair bonded to me. She's never been in that real strong pair bonding relationship. And if she leaves or we end, it's going to be difficult for her. And so I've noticed this in women that have been with a lot of men. They're just hard for them to connect with a man. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with it. So it's called pair bonding.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and probably because she's got so much hurt because she's been with so many different men, because women take the biggest hit to their self-esteem when it comes to sex. If they feel used and abused, or a man, what women think, a lot of women, not all women, is if you give yourself to a man, he'll fall in love with you. I have to trade sex for affection. And it's not true. But women will think in order to keep him, and I've had even older women who are on the market say, I'm not going to have sex with you. And the man goes, well, then I'm not going to date you.
I'm going to ask you something.
Wow.
Are you familiar with sexual marketplace value? Do you know who Rollo Tomasi is?
No.
Okay. Well, this is good.
Who? Do you know?
But see,
I don't.
I feel like I'm
new to social
alphaing your wife because
I'm new to social media.
I'm doing the entertainment. I'm bringing her to the Bugatti outside the Matrix. Okay, no. So I want you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to Rollo Tomasi, Michael Sartain. Rollo Tomasi wrote a book called The Rational Male. He's the guy that started, and he's not going to say this. We call him the professor. Okay. He's the guy that started this whole masculine red pill movement in my mind. And so he wrote a series of books called The Rational Religion, the Rational Male. So he's got 4 or 5 book series on it. In fact, some of them might be in here. I don't know if Trey is going to go get one. Hold on one second. I think that's one of them right there. Let me see. No, I don't see it, but they're out there. But
okay.
He does this podcast here every week. So he came up. He's. Are you getting the book? Can you go get that book, The Rational Male book, out there, please? Thank you, sir. My son, Lee. So he's been writing these books for years, like 14, 15 years. So he did are you familiar with Kevin Samuels?
I've heard the name because I hear comments, something about, her and Kevin Samuels. Talking about me. Who is he? I don't know who he is.
Yeah, so Kevin, okay, so here's how it all started. And Rollo, forgive me if I get the dates right and wrong, but Rollo was on this radio show in Oklahoma, and they used to call him the Godfather. And he wrote this book on called The Rational Male, on dating, relationships, marriage, the feminist movement, how the hormonal birth control killed relationships and all this stuff, right? I don't know which book this is right here. This one is this is one of his books, Rational Male, Preventative Medicine, right? But he's got 4 or 5 books out. So the core book, Rational Male, he talks about sexual marketplace value. So he had this radio show in Oklahoma. Kevin Samuels was selling, traveling salesman, selling colognes and all this stuff, and he listened to the show. So Kevin Samuels started doing a podcast, and they called him the Godfather. And he was a big influence in the Black community about positive masculinity and dating. Now, Kevin Samuels has a different approach. He doesn't pull punches. He's right in your face. It's like, whoa. People are like, oh, he's offensive, blah, blah, blah. And then he passed away. Andrew Tate got a lot of his material from Rollo. Fresh and Fit, all these guys. Now, it's not Rollo's responsibility or fault for however people take the material and use it, but he's the foundation of what wrote this. So he's got a term in there called sexual marketplace value. At 18, women have instant value. The sexual marketplace, women, their values based on looks, men it's based on resources. So what happens is a woman's sexual marketplace peak, and this is, you can read the book, but you should be on his show. I'll connect you with Rollo. He's been on Dr. Phil. He's been on Jedediah Beal. You probably seen Jedediah Beal. He's been on Adam Sosnick's show. He had what's his name? The guy that wrote the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki was on his show. He has women on his show in a panel. Has been married, successful, great guy. So at 18, women have instant value. Their sexual market peak value peaks at 24 to 26 years old. because their looks go down. Their looks start dropping. Men's go up because it's based on value. So it peaks, I think, around 35 to 40. And they're 40. Men's have the most resources available. They've proven they have a success record. They have a lot of income and resources. So at 40, men's, here's their sexual peak. A woman's is at 27. And so as a woman gets older, not as a human being, hear me out, not as a person and their looks diminish.
Right.
Not that older women aren't attractive, not that they're not sexy, but you got that 26-year-old pure look that just you're not going to get back. So as it goes down, here's the problem that we're seeing. Women are expecting this 24, 26-year-old outcome result because, like I say, you're never going to see you see most of these guys that make a lot of money, they're going, okay, here's a woman that's 35 years old with 2 kids divorced. Here's a girl that's 27 years old with no kids. Who are they going to choose? The 27-year-old that's attractive. And then women say, well, that's shallow. It's like, wait a minute, you won't date a guy that works at Burger King. He has to make 6 figures a year. So we have different needs.
Right.
So what happens is the girl's 27. She's out tearing up the dance floor, partying. She might have an OnlyFans. I don't know. Whatever. Sliding the ball, doing her thing, dating. Then she gets to 35. She's got her 2 cats, her boxed wine, watching The Notebook. And she goes, I deserve this guy that makes 6 figures that has a
2 cats in her box of wine.
six pack abs, 6 figures income, 250K a year. It's like, wait a minute, you can't expect that outcome at where you're at. And they get so offended and they don't understand that what men want is different than what women want. And it's not just looks, hear me out.
Yeah. No,
but
I
you
get
see where
that.
I'm going?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, for a man, I have to be with a woman. Now, here's where I said, average guy, nothing wrong with the average men. I'm not saying high-valued men are better than average men, but a lot of average guys have accepted what they're going to get. They know they're not going to get the beauty queen. Women, however, don't. They all think they're 10s. and I'm not, look, here's my point. I, as a high-valued man, had options to choose who I wanted without the resources and without the foundation, without my frame, money, muscle, game, and frame. My frame is my foundation. This is where I'm not going to bend to the knee. I don't have to give up my values. I have my house on concrete and on bamboo. This is what I want. This is what I believe in. If you come in and try to chop out the foundation, I'm not going to bend the knee. When I was low valued, I didn't have the options. I had to accept where I'm at. So now what they're saying is, hey, I deserve this. I'm a 10. No, you're not. And it's not subjective, it's objective. Beauty is objective, right? We know that based on beauty queens who wins, the height, hip, waist ratio. And so now we're seeing these women that had said, well, if I don't get what I want, I'm just going to stay single. And then they end up on TikTok and Instagram with their cats and boxed wine, complaining about misogynist men and toxic masculinity. So this book he wrote talks a lot about hormonal birth control. It talks about the 60s, the changes that have happened. It talks about the sexual marketplace value, revolution of feminists. And I'm going to introduce you to Rollo because I think you should go on Rollo's show. I think you guys would connect really well. But you start getting into our realm and what we're deciphering, you're going to have enough arrows in the quiver to be equipped to destroy people. I mean, you already got some good stuff. I've learned some stuff from you being on the show. I'm like, that's interesting. Okay. And I sit there and I dissect it and then I take it in like a sponge. And for me, it's like learning from different individuals. And I say, okay, that makes sense. And I do my research. So that's very informative. But so for me, like I was telling you, if you look at the guys out there, the more resources they have, the more options. It's just the way it is. And so
I understand that.
how are we gonna utilize that? And the opposite for the women, as they get older, it's like, okay, no, she doesn't have children. Here's what happens. If I be in a relationship with a woman that has a child, and I say, here's your vertical alignment biblically, God first, then the man, then the wife, and then the children. Is that fair? And within those seams, you still have to create your revenue to take care of the family. I go with a gal, and she has 2 children from 1 guy or 2 guys, doesn't matter. The problem that women have with kids, and this is what men see, they know that they're never going to come before those children. They know that they're not going to be the true leader of the house, not to dominate or control, but they know when push comes to shove, when the boots hit the ground and there's a discrepancy or a discernment or a conversation or a debate or a disagreement, those kids are going to come before him. And I've had gals on my show and I've asked them, I said, here, let me ask you a question. If you get married and you have a child, who's going to come first? Him or the kid? Oh, my kid, 100%.
Well, because the kid is dependent on her. I mean, the child is dependent on the
But he
adult.
now becomes the father. Even though the child still has a father, he takes on that responsibility. He's still got to take the child to daycare. He's still got to take the child to soccer. He's still going to be there for the kid for Christmas. He's still going to mentor that child. Even though that child has a father, biological father, he's still in that fatherly role. And so if you take the legs out from that man, he now becomes emasculated. He's not a leader of the home. And that child's not going to respect him, because that mother is not putting him before the child.
Yeah, we teach that, like my husband has always said that, you know, when he would come home off the road and if there was any issues that I was having with the kids, he would always tell them, you know, you give your mom grief. He goes, I'm going to give you grief. He's like, you're going to respect her. And he would teach them how to treat me if there was any issues. And our kids also knew that when dad came home, it was me and dad first. Mom and dad going to have their time, and then we're going to be with the kids. But the kids will grow up in a secure, they will grow in their own security, knowing that mom and dad love each other. If mom and dad are good, the kids will be great. But if mom and dad are bickering and fighting and arguing all the time, it will breed insecurity in your children. So they knew we had date nights once a week, every single week, our entire marriage.
Did you guys go to the Cheesecake Factory?
Oh my gosh, that used to be a big.
You know the joke on that, right?
No.
You haven't seen that go viral on the internet? I gotta get her up to speed here. Now you're not watching Instagram enough, are you?
Probably not. Too busy reading my comments.
Yeah, see, stop. And it's funny because all the women podcasters read all the comments.
But, you know, it's research. For me, it's research. I'm learning so much.
I just say the same things.
I'm learning
Die
so
alone with
much.
your cats. I mean, it's okay. I don't got cats. Okay.
But for me, I'm seeing it like, I feel like I've been so in the church world. I've been kind of sheltered, and because I've always taught all my stuff within the church walls. And now that I'm on the internet, I'm blown away where people are at. I didn't realize
how bad it is.
I didn't.
It's welcome to Lucifer's den.
And you know what I've seen mostly is the pain in men.
Oh.
Like they are sharing, and I'm like,
men have it way harder than women.
Breaking.
Way harder.
Yeah, I agree. And the women are not.
The mental health,
nice.
the mental health of men has diminished tremendously since COVID. It's bad. And I'm sitting there going, man, I would not want to be single right now. Yeah. I'm telling you, so the thing that went viral was this gal was on there and she was recording this guy who wanted to take her to the Cheesecake Factory. And she went on there and she's like, I can't believe this guy. I'm not eating here at the Cheesecake Factory. This thing went viral. So then men and women started making lists of what they won't do and do on the first date where they'll go. So I came out with a video and I said, listen, this is my rule. Remember, muscle, money, game, here's my frame. You don't like it, bounce. I always did coffee dates first.
I saw that.
Because I want to qualify to see. And I said it in a way, a lot of women were offended, derogatory. It wasn't derogatory, it was firm, because they have to understand, look, so many men run around here and it's called simp, right? They're simping. And it's like, oh, okay, please, I hope you go on a date with me. Right? I'm over exaggerating. And I said, guys, listen, you have the power and control. It's you decide. Ask her. You're supposed to be the knight in shining armor. And so I want to qualify to see, look, hey, let's meet for coffee. It's non-threatening.
Yeah.
It's in the daytime. So if she takes a swing at you, somebody can see it, right? I'm joking. But you get to sit down and kind of like have not a chess match, you're playing checkers. Because if you go on a date, it's more like chess. It's like navigating the deep waters of the ocean. Did she say she had to go to the bathroom to make a call and have her friend call her? Does she like me? Am I wearing the right shoes? Am I cologne too? You go to coffee, it's casual. So tell me about yourself, right? You get to know the person. Because you may realize in the first 30, 45 minutes or an hour that this is not a good fit for me either. And you saved yourself because let's be honest, they don't want to go to the Cheesecake Factory. I'm being serious. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to go to a nice dinner in Vegas on the Strip. And I don't know if you've been to the Strip lately, but a coffee's $15. A sugar-free Red Bull that I drink, or Diet Coke, because I don't drink. So I say I'll take a sugar-free or a Diet Coke, shaken, not stirred. And they bring it to me. It's $9.
Yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Now because this is adult Disneyland. Remember, off the Strip, it's super inexpensive here. It's very affordable to live.
Yeah, we like the gas prices here. Wait, $2 cheaper a gallon than in California.
And there's no state income tax here. So that's why all the Californians from OC have a nonprofit or a business or a church or whatever here. And this is their lawyers are billing because they don't have to pay the 13%. Anyways, that's a whole different conversation. So what I said was, let's do coffee. Then we'll go from there. And then either they're not interested because they didn't like me or I'm not interested or whatever. And then we would go to a decent restaurant, you know. But what I'm seeing on the internet, this thing went viral. This nice guy took this gal to the Cheesecake Factory. She didn't want to get out of the car. I'm not eating in no Cheesecake Factory.
Wow.
So now all these girls, entitlement. Remember, every girl I talk to, I'm a 10.
Oh, boy.
I'm a 10. It's like, okay, I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about your looks. I understand. Well, I'm a 10. Oh, so what do you bring to the relationship? I'm sexy. Okay. See, right there, I'm not cooking. I did a video. I said most women can't put a Hot Pocket in the microwave and get it right. It's boiling hot on the outside, ice cold on the inside. I don't want a Hot Pocket. I want a meal. Can you make it? Do you have a cookbook? And they get so offended. It's like, if I'm going to go out and provide, why can't you do something? Why? I've never, and my son will tell you this, I've never cooked in my kitchen. I'm not allowed in there. I swear, I can go to the grill, but I'm going, what are you doing? And even when she's as mad as she can be, she starts speaking in Spanish, and I have no idea what she's saying. I have no idea. And she starts speaking in Spanish. She still makes me food. And I'm thankful for that. But so I want you to go find it. So there's a list what women have made where they won't go on a first date.
Wow.
And then guys came out with their list. This is where I'll take you on a first date. So this has been going viral. And so you'll see the little trends pop up from the red pill. Okay. We get attacked by Daily Wire. Went after Rollo and Glenn about red pill guys are telling people not to get married, and both of them are married. And you know, so we get attacked. What's interesting, red pill gets attacked from the conservatives, and we get attacked by the socialists and the liberals. The conservatives don't like us because we're telling men, wait. I tell men, wait till you're 40 to get married, or 35. Wait till you have your value there. Then you're equipped. You can make a decision. Women should get married in the mid-20s. This is what I said. So then they all come after me. So conservatives don't like that. Socialists don't like that. Liberals don't like us. So you got the red pill in one area. You got the conservatives here, and you got the lefties here. And now everybody's kind of coming after the red pill because of our views and our values, right? So it's interesting. So I'm going to get you that. When I see that video, I want you to go onto Instagram and do a search, or TikTok and do a search for Cheesecake Factory first date. It's amazing. So is there anything in closing, is there anything that you want to ask me, or is there any value? Let's say this. Is there any last messages or words that you can throw out there for hope for people in relationships that want to do it right, or they're struggling?
Well, I
words
just
of
think
wisdom.
If women can understand men and how they tick and why they do some of the things they do, and that's what I want to do. I want to teach men to understand women and women to understand men so that they can live in peace and harmony. And I think there's just some things, because you don't understand it, like for women, when they don't understand something that a man does, they take it personal. Everything in regards to men is personal for a woman. And my thing is, it's not personal. This is just how men are. Like, you feel like you're being interrogated when your girlfriend asks you too many questions. But I didn't finish that thought earlier. The reason she asks the questions is to connect. And do you know what connecting for her does? It makes her feel safe. And you know what when a woman feels heard and connected and safe with you, do you know what that does to her? It makes her willing to make herself vulnerable, more vulnerable in the bedroom, be real, be authentic, show her real self, give you the respect that you need. But if she doesn't feel safe and she's guarded because she can't get details from you, she can't get the emotional connection from you, then there's going to be a resistance there, a disconnect. So it all works together. So I teach men how to listen to women. There's a certain way. If you listen like this, because the way
I don't know about her.
the way that men listen.
Now she's telling me what to do. She's being bossy here.
But if you learned how to listen to a woman, I mean, you'd get everything you needed
maybe
to.
you need to develop something with Google that you can put on and it can translate? Because I'm hearing the peanuts. I want it translated. No, that's great though. I appreciate that. No, I know you're being serious.
But yeah, she needs her feelings validated. Her feelings are big to her, and it doesn't mean you have to agree with her to validate her feelings. You can just say, okay, I don't really understand, but tell me more. And for a woman,
is there a guy that says, "Tell me more"?
If you did,
I never understand, and I don't want to know more.
But if you want a deep emotional connection with your woman,
okay.
If you want
I'm gonna try this
good relationship with her, then you have to learn how a woman.
If it doesn't work, I'm sending you an invoice for Advil.
No, trust me, it works.
Okay.
I mean, I know that it works. I've been telling people this for 20
Right on,
years.
man. So now, are you going to have a book coming out?
Maybe, probably. I don't know that I'm an author. I think I'm a better speaker than a writer, but who knows? Maybe.
Right on. And now you got, where can people find you other than, they go to your Instagram that we put up on the screen. Do you have a website as well?
Not one that is, well, I do have a website, but not one that is functioning. Mostly YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
And your YouTube, I'll get your YouTube and I'll tag these videos.
Yeah,
and then
just Daniele Hage podcast.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and I'll give you access to the videos. You can go ahead and do what you want with them and edit them. And I appreciate coming out, and it's been insightful. And when you come back out, I'm sure Rollo will probably have you on a show with all the guests, all the gals.
I'll have to read his book.
Well, his show's Access Vegas. I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's a lot of women on the show.
Okay.
And then he's here and Michael's here. And I think it'd be really great for women to get your perspective on dating and relationships, because I think it's something that it's the message is received differently from a woman of influence, right, and impact versus some guy, right, that they don't. That's a toxic masculinity guy, misogynist. Anyways, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you share this video, like this video, and hit the bell for notification. And we will see you again on the next episode of Black Ice Reality Check. We'll have this video up here shortly. And make sure you go see everything that this lady's doing. I think it's very great. It's very impactful. Changes people's life, her and her husband. And you just need to make sure you follow her on Instagram and subscribe to her YouTube channel. Until then, thank you. Stay strong. We'll see you soon.